Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be reading through the White Album 2 official guidebook. This is White Album 2, The Other Side of Happiness official guidebook. So this is the guidebook which came with the PlayStation 3 version of the game. And it's not just a guide, obviously. It has a lot of different bonus materials, a little bit of analysis into the song lyrics. It tells us a little bit about the characters and their profiles. It has a few little summaries of the game. So being an official product, it does give us some information about the game, which comes from an official source. So I think it'll be interesting. The first bit is largely photos. Not really photos, like the art from the game, the CGs, which I find interesting. So that's probably mainly what we're going to be looking at in this first part, starting with the cover. So we've seen this art before, Kazusa, Setsuna, and the side heroines in this sort of painted style, which is really pretty. I do love this. The only one, I'm not a big fan of Chiaki in this art. I don't like the way her chest is drawn. I know that's so bad to say, but come on, it just doesn't look realistic. It just looks a bit odd to me. Everybody else looks really nice. So, the guidebook starts out, we have an image of Setsuna Ogiso. This art is pretty common. They've used this art on literally every piece of merchandise. I have an acrylic stand of this. A bunch of telephone cards have had this. Pretty sure a few posters have as well. It is nice though. I cannot deny that. This is White Album 2 official guidebook. White Album 2, The Other Side of Happiness official guidebook. And then we have this image, and this full image in this exact lineup was actually the cover of closing chapter. See here? Look at Chiaki. Look, it looks normal here. Her chest doesn't look weird. I don't know. I always think of the word mango. Because it's just lopsided and odd in that first image. I don't know. Of course, the background to the title screen is what leads us into this guidebook. And we're going to start with the illustration gallery. Now, the way that this guide is put together is really, really cool. Whenever we're talking about a certain heroine, it's actually color-coded throughout the novel. Not really novel, I guess, but the guide, which is really cool. So if you just want to look I want to find out all about Mari, just look at the purple. And you find purple, and you know that that's going to be Mari content. And that's really helpful, especially when looking at the roots and stuff. And here is our illustration appendix. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get into much detail of the appendix because we're going to see all of these images. But I think what's interesting is this lays it all out as to where these illustrations came from. Because, like I say, these images have been used over and over and over again. But here's where they come from, which I think is really neat. For example, on the top right, this image of Koharu has been used on a telephone card. That's where it originally came from. After that, they actually made it into a tapestry, which I have, which is really nice. But it's neat to see where it came from. Number 4, the L'Espoir, that was a CD from Rena Uehara. And the special edition had this White Album 2 sleeve, which is really cool. And you can find that. I did a merch review on it. Anyway, I'm just going to keep geeking out over these photos. We should probably just look at them. All right, back to the image with the weird Chiaki. Sorry if I ruined this image for everyone, but I cannot look at it without being why? So this was from The Other Side of Happiness Standard Edition package illustration. And as you can see, it has all of the heroines in it. This one was from the PC edition, which I like a little bit more. This is White Album 2, The Other Side of Happiness image illustration. Only Kazusa and Setsuna. And Surprisingly, these images actually weren't used on other merch. I've never seen these used on anything else. This is the L'Espoir illustration, which I just talked about. It was the special edition of Nana Uehara's CD. And if you look at the regular edition, it's literally the same CD, but it just doesn't have this beautiful WA2 sleeve. The thing I really like about this one is that Chiaki's like front and center. Like she's right there. Do I think her chest still looks a bit silly? Yes. I don't know why, out of all the heroines, Chiaki is drawn the strangest. This is not, like we've seen her. We've seen it. She has bared it all. This is not what her chest looks like. I don't know why. As soon as she puts on a sweater, it just looks weird in a lot of images. I'll stop talking about Chiaki's chest soon, I promise. So here is Kazusa Setsuna. So this was actually a 2-page spread, which obviously is a little bit harder to render. So we're going to look at it side by side, Kazusa and Setsuna. This was a clear file illustration, and this clear file actually got made into a really beautiful cloth, which I think illustrated it a little bit better than the clear file did later on. You probably recognize this. This was one of the biggest soundtracks from White Album 2, but they went on and used this art in like literally everything, like from cloths to posters to whatchamacallit, the canvas board. Like, this has been everywhere. It is a really beautiful piece of art with Kazusa on it, though. I love this image of Koharu. So this was on the closing CD, which made me so happy because, like, the side heroines do not get enough recognition. They really, really don't. They don't get enough merch. They don't get enough anything. And the fact that Koharu is the face of one of the CDs here, I was like, ah. Not to mention, it's gorgeous. The sunset, the water, her open arms, her cheery smile. Just, it can't get any more perfect than this. And very similar in style is here Setsuna with outstretched arms and the sunset as well. This was the original soundtrack, Setsuna. Now the difference between Setsuna and Kazusa is Setsuna's voice actress actually did the singing for a lot of these songs, which is really nice and we love. And I love hearing the subtle differences of the songs sung by different people from the game. One of the CDs, the closing, actually had Chiaki and Mari, which I love. Chiaki obviously isn't the most popular character because she's very odd. And odd is putting it lightly. But she looks so, I don't know, like torn here. Like she wants to continue the charade, but she can't help her own feelings from growing and it's bothering her. And that's what I always see when I look at this illustration. I love it. Mari, I just love in general. I think that much is clear. She looks very drunk. I hope that was the intention of like her eyes being one really open and one really closed like that. Because it does look a bit doofy, I guess. But Mari-san with her hair down is something we don't get to see often, which I love because I love Mari-san and I wish we did get to see it a little bit more. So that was kind of a treat on this CD. Some of the drama CD illustrations. This one is gorgeous. I love this one. This one has been used a lot as well. This one actually got used on one of the official White Album 2 clocks later on, which are a bit rarer. So I really like this one. The girls getting along just makes me very happy. Kazusa and her drama CD, which is really beautiful as well. If you haven't listened to the CDs, I recommend it. They really add another layer of depth to the story. This illustration was also used in the White Album 2 cafe cards, this one specifically. It stood out because it was very white among everything else. Koharu. Koharu is adorable. I love the goodies uniform so much. This Setsuna has been everywhere. Push. So Push was a magazine. It covers mostly like dating sim. I guess adult dating sims is honestly what it mostly covers. But it's a huge, huge magazine in Japan. And I mean like thickness wise as well as popularity wise. And White Album 2 actually made the cover in 2009, which is a pretty big deal. So if you check out that issue, you will see this giant Setsuna adorning the cover. This Setsuna has been everywhere. This specific art of Setsuna has been used so many times, and it's very similar to another art of Setsuna kind of laying in the snow as the snow falls, which I find interesting. This was on the cover of Bug Bug. Oh, not the cover, but it was in Bug Bug. Bug Bug is another like adult dating sim type magazine, and they featured White Album 2. This was in 2010. A lot of these magazines also had like pull-out posters and demo CDs of the White Album 2 game, which is pretty neat. I love this. Kazusen Setsuna. This is one of my more favorite introductory chapter concert illustrations, just because they both look happy, which I feel is kind of rare for Kazusa and Setsuna together. And look at that! Look at the hands! Oh, it's so beautiful. This was the cover of Denki G's, which is amazing because the fact that they're holding hands and smiling and on the cover of something is crazy. Usually when we see White Album 2 advertised, it's like they're both next to each other but crying, you know? Which is awful. But that's White Album 2, I guess. So, now we're moving through the official guidebook. On the left, we can see a lot of the background illustrations from the game, which, you know, we don't really think that much about the background of things, but these are gorgeous. Like, these are really, really well done. Think about all of the memories in each scene, all of the things that happened. Beautiful. So I'm not going to read through the table of contents for you. This is generally how it's going to go, starting with, well, the illustration gallery, which we've just wrapped up. And then we're going to move into introductory, then closing, and then coda. And then extra. We get even more CGs later on. So, a lot to go through. It's going to take a few episodes, but I think it'll be fun. I think it's interesting. It's interesting to see official products from the game because, like I mentioned, you get little tidbits of information that you haven't seen elsewhere. So, this is the play guide for Introductory Chapter, which is pretty straightforward because you don't really get to make any decisions. The prologue. I heard a song traversing the cold wind, joining the guitar that I played that evening in the music room, joining the piano that someone whose face I didn't know, played in the room next to me. That voice from the roof, high, clear, and resonant as a bell, connected our scattered melodies. That late autumn was where it began. Someone fell in love with someone. We gave it all we had. We all plunged ahead with powerful sentiments in our hearts, single-mindedly, earnestly, honestly. We all joined together on the deepest level and found something irreplaceable. And so, someone fell in love with someone. A love one step too late. A love that should never have happened. I love that line. That line is beautiful. A love one step too late. Oh, God. Never be afraid to say what you feel. Like, you never know. You never know if someone's going to say yes. You never know if you might just get that date with someone who you think is out of your league. Like, just go for it. It's like a YOLO, except I mean this in a very, very pure sense and not like a silly YOLO sense. Really, just go for it. Think about what would have happened if Kazusa had just gone for it, you know? And then apply that to your own life. And that winter, the snow piled up and covered over all of our sins. Then at last, as the snow melted in spring, our punishment fell upon us. Beautifully written, though. Kudos to the translators for making that sound beautiful outside of Japanese. It's not like a one-to-one translation, but like they translated the meaning and made it still sound poetic. That's pretty cool. This story is split up into 3 chapters. This section contains information regarding the first section, Introductory chapter. In this chapter, a story unfolds in which the protagonist, Haruki, and the 2 heroines forge and deepen bonds through band rehearsals. This is Introductory chapter. And the first thing we check out is the opening animation, which is beautiful. And every time I see an image from it, it's just like, boom, the song pops into my head. Like, it's been really well done. It's so cute. My God. I really like this style. The style of the art. Everything about it. It's just so nice. So many memories in one sequence, you know? Obviously, when you're watching this happen, you don't really know, for the first time anyway, you don't know where everything's coming from. But if you stop and look at this after the scene is played out, after the game has been played, you're like, oh my God, that's from that part. That's from that part. So much has happened. So, starting off with the introductory chapter, opening song. Love Out of Reach, which, of course, is Terokanai Koi. Now, I will say, with Japanese songs translated into English, it's hard because, like, yes, you can write the meaning of the words, but like I mentioned earlier with sounding poetic in translation, it's really hard to make it sound as good as it did in the original language. It's more like here, now you can understand what the song means. But it's not going to sound as beautiful being read out in English as it does in Japanese. More so if you understand Japanese. But I think you kind of know what I mean by that. So we're going to read through the English translation, but it doesn't honor the song as it was originally meant to be. But that's okay. So, this is Love Out of Reach. Are you pretending to be alone? I couldn't help but wonder why. Then, before I realized it, you fascinated me more than anyone. How can I show my heart in the mirror? Though my love may never reach you, the day could come when it starts to show. Until that hazy answer comes into view, my love will remain frozen. The day that I first spoke to you, you turned to look at me. You were so dazzling that I had to look away. Aww. How do I trace myself into your heart? Though my love may never reach you, the day could come when it starts to show. If I could see the tiniest bit of that hazy answer, then my love might come alive. How can I show my heart in the mirror? Though my love may never reach you, the day could come when it starts to show. Until that hazy answer comes into view, my love will remain frozen. It did show. Everyone's just so stupid because they're high schoolers and they don't see the signs. How can you not realize that she has a crush on you? How can she not just be more open about it? Ugh. It's so frustrating to realize they're all in high school and they're emotionally immature. And like, if it was just 5-10 years later, they would have just been straight up with each other and we would have avoided all the drama. And yet here we are. But that's Terokanai Koi. So, moving into the play guide of Introductory chapter, we get a story summary. So, Haruki, the protagonist, is a member of the Light Music Club at Hojo High School. The plan had been for the club to perform at the upcoming school festival, but turmoil stirred up by their female vocalist has caused the other members to quit one by one. Thanks, Tomo. However, for reasons no one would expect, he manages to bring in the school idol, Setsuna, as a new singer. And Setsuna persuades Kazusa, a pianist with genius-level musical talent, to join as well. As the festival presses nearer, they work to increase the quality of their performance. They bond quickly as they rehearse together, but when Haruki and Setsuna ultimately begin dating, that relationship starts to collapse. This is it's such a spoiler, if I had bought this game, right, and then immediately opened up the play guide and read that, I'd be like, oh, well, I guess I don't even need to play the introductory chapter, And I find that in play guides released for Japanese-only games compared to play guides I've read for Western releases, Japanese play guides have a lot more spoilers. Advertisements do, a lot more spoilers for the game. And I wonder if that's, I don't know, something of a cultural difference to be like, the biggest thing isn't to know the overall plot. The biggest thing is to enjoy the story and enjoy the flow of the story. Whereas maybe in the West, it's more like, no, I want the emotional roller coaster. I don't want to know what happens. I want to go into this and I want to be shocked and surprised and feel those emotions. It's just my own thought, but it really is true. There's so many spoilers in this. Setsuna is terrified in the extreme of being left out. This trauma arose from a bitter, painful experience in her middle school years. After the school festival concert is over, Setsuna confesses to Haruki. This action is the result of a certain something she witnessed. I guess there's some unknowns there, but it just seems, if you look at the right image, you're like, oh, okay, well, they did succeed, and they played in the school festival. That's the whole plot of the introductory chapter, is whether or not they're going to make it in time to play in the school festival. But with this image alone, you're like, oh, well, I guess they do. And Setsuna confesses to Haruki. Okay. You don't even need to play the game. So, this is what I really like. I like the character profiles. So starting with our protagonist, Haruki Kitahara, who doesn't even get his own image here. The first term representative of Class 3E, in charge of second guitar and odd tasks for the Light Music Club. His natural instinct is to help those in trouble, and he is almost too ready to offer a hand. As an honors student and a skilled speaker, he often talks people over with flawless ideological reasoning. Ever since he began his third year, he has been curious about Kazusa, his seat neighbor, and repeatedly attempts to talk to her in spite of her cold attitude toward him. Well, if only he was a little more open and honest about that, things might have been different. I love Takeya so much. Takeya Izuka, the leader and main guitarist of the Light Music Club, Haruki's best friend and childhood friends with Io as well. His looks and manner make him popular with girls, and it's been said that he has a girlfriend in every class. What a player. And then Io, Mizusawa, Setsuna's classmate, childhood friends with Takeya, and friends with Haruki through him. She is the captain of the basketball team, and her easygoing personality has made her popular with the first and second-year girls. Not gonna lie, if I was in high school, I'd probably have a crush on Io too. She's beautiful, she's outspoken, she's athletic. How can you not? Chikashi Hayasaka, Haruki's classmate. Technically the leader of the committee behind the Miss Hojo contest. But his friend Haruki is so reliable that he ends up shunting most of the work onto him. Reliable is a word that you could use. You could also use he's just a sucker. And so you could just push whatever work you don't want onto him. And he'll be like, oh, thank you. What a fool. Takahiro Ogiso, Setsuna's highly inquisitive younger brother, currently a third year in middle school and apparently hopes to attend Hojo High School like his sister. I love Takahiro. He's like the best younger brother ever. I think he's written really realistically. A lot of the time when you write younger siblings, it's just like, really, I can tell you've never had a younger sibling kind of thing. Takahiro, I feel, pretty much nails it. Like, he's really kind and loving when he needs to be and protective, but he's also just kind of an annoying brat at times as well. I think he fills his role extremely well. Yoko Toma, Kazusa's mother, an internationally renowned pianist. Seeing Kazusa's performance in the high school festival show leads her to reaffirm her daughter's talent. I got big issues with Yoko Toma, but we'll probably get to that later. Chiaki Izumi, Takeya's classmate, has never interacted with Haruki, but begins to take an interest after seeing the Light Music Club's performance. I hate this so much because, like, obviously if you're watching this, I hope you've played through all the routes because big spoilers ahead. Chiaki's route was one of my favorites because of how shocking it was, you know, because of the emotional, like, you get thrown for a loop, like you had no idea. And here we are in introductory chapter. She has her own character profile that's like, oh yeah, she was Takeya's classmate and she has an interest in the Light Music Club. Like, are you kidding me? Don't spoil that. It drives me crazy. That's awful. Maybe it's just me. I don't think it's just me. Come on. Whatever. Moving on to Setsuna's beautiful family. Setsuna's mother, Akina Ogiso, which they don't even mention her name. How rude. Setsuna's calm-mannered mother, highly sensitive to her children's changes, but chooses to watch over them warmly rather than butt in too far. And then Setsuna's father, a somewhat strict father to Setsuna, makes it a rule to settle family matters through full family discussions. I love Setsuna's dad, but also he's a little bit scary. So then, moving to our main heroines. First, Setsuna Ogiso, the school idol and reigning champion of the Miss Hojo High School competition for 2 years running. Her personality is actually quite ordinary, but once she gained her fame, she began to worry over her image, and she hides her true self when engaging with others. Unable to tell anyone how much she loves singing, she has become the solo karaoke queen, spending hours and hours shut away singing alone in the karaoke rooms. This is so dumb to me. Like, this is something I'll never understand, even considering, like, well, they're kind of dumb high schoolers. Literally, you're a school idol, that's great. Maybe you gotta worry about your image a little more. You have to hide the fact that you love to sing? What? Especially in Japan, this is such a common thing. Loving singing and loving karaoke is such a common thing. Why would she have to hide that? Like, I don't get it. It just seems like stupid, pointless drama. The one person to whom she has ever shown her real self is Haruki, and she takes an interest in him, which gradually develops into an attraction to his sociable manner and strong sense of responsibility. What a mistake that is. Kazusa's too tall. I can't see her face. Let me see. Okay, that's better. Kazusa Toma, Haruki's classmate and the daughter of internationally renowned pianist Yoko Toma. She entered the music department at the beginning of high school, but certain circumstances led her to transfer into general education for her 3rd year. She is a delinquent. Just bluntly, she's a delinquent. Poor of conduct and rude of speech, but she is also a great beauty with a genius-level musical sense. She stubbornly refuses contact with those around her, unable to get on with her teachers and classmates, and Haruki is the only one in her class who ever talks to her. Her habit of showing up late has put her graduation prospects in jeopardy, and Haruki attempts to help her out whenever he finds the chance. See, that is cute, and that makes sense. Setsuna being like, I can't tell anyone that I love singing. Really? But Kazusa just kind of being a delinquent and Haruki helping her out, that feels more natural. And I'm not saying that as a big diss on Setsuna. I love Setsuna, but the whole, oh, gotta uphold my high school idol status, it's just so annoying to me. But hey, that's introductory chapter. And then we move on to more mature fights, I guess, for better or worse. So this is the play guide for the introductory chapter. Before we actually get into the chapter structure, because IC is made in such a way where it's really just, it's like reading a book almost. You don't get the choices. You don't get to make the decisions. And so it's pretty straightforward. We're just going to kind of read through the events and what happens there. But we will stop there for now. So thank you for joining me on this episode 1, the first episode of the White Album 2 play guide, and I'll be back with the next part shortly. Until then, hope you take care. See you!